What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and welcome to an NFL free agency video. I'm going to be giving you my reactions on what is currently happening in what I would quote-unquote call free agency, because free agency technically doesn't start until March 17th for the league year, and I'm really excited about it, honestly. I can't wait to see who signs, who goes where. It's always one of the biggest days of the year for me, at the very least. I just want to say thank you guys for being patient with me. I know I didn't get really any uploads for the past week, including a Nuzlocke or video for the weekend. I promise I'll make it up to you guys. Next weekend is definitely going to be a video about what my initial thoughts on free agency are after big signings are made. I'm definitely planning to go into that for sure. And Nuzlocke episodes are going to be absolute bangers, considering that we're near the end of the series for that. And honestly, it's going to be great. I promise you guys. We're going to have a blast with that. But thank you guys for being patient with me. And yeah, we're just going to do a little bit of a kind of pre-free agency video where I give my initial thoughts on what has happened in the current league year, basically leading up to Super Bowl, after that, and whatnot. This isn't going to be too long of a video. I hope you guys will forgive me. But we're next weekend for sure. I'm going to get you guys an absolute banger of a video, and I'm really excited. So without further ado, let's get into it. Detroit dealing Matthew Stafford to the Rams for Jared Goff and picks. So my initial thought was Detroit absolutely won this deal. Getting Jared Goff and two first-round picks and a third. I mean, I don't know how many years. I think the Rams are going to go now like 7 years without a first-round pick, and that's absolutely insane. I don't think they know what first-round picks are. But yeah, Detroit gets Jared Goff and a bunch of first-round picks. That's definitely useful for their future. I still think Jared Goff is a competent quarterback. He isn't all that. I know he's not worth as much money as he's paid, but I think he's definitely still a competent quarterback and can hold down this Detroit Lions team until they get their successor for the future. Unless Jared Goff works out there, that'd be really huge. And then LA finally gets the quarterback they've always wanted. Matt Stafford's definitely an upgrade over Goff. It's debatable how much of an upgrade you think he is, but still, he's still a solid upgrade over Jared Goff for sure. So LA is definitely going to be in that race trying to win the NFC West. Arizona, San Francisco is going to come back, Seattle, and we're going to talk about Russell Wilson. But all those teams are in prime position to win, honestly. So the Rams definitely need something to put them above the rest, and Matthew Stafford might do that. So we'll see what happens next year. But I think both teams are kind of considering it a win-win. Overall, I would say Detroit won, though, because I think the Rams overpaid for Stafford. But still not a bad deal in total. And I looked through this, so I'm just going to scroll up a little bit and tell you what my opinions are on the kind of the better ones. Dolphin, and of course I've got my bias. Dolphins signing Jason Sanders to a 5-year extension. That's my boy. I love Jason Sanders. He makes so many kicks. Absolutely stud for him. The next big one, Eagles trade Carson Wentz to the Colts for draft picks. And honestly, I don't know how to feel about this one. I really don't, even after looking back on it. So the Eagles trade Carson Wentz to the Colts for a 2021 third-round pick and a conditional 2020 second. However, that conditional 2020 second-round pick is probably going to go into a first-round pick because Wentz needs to play at least 75% of the Colts snaps, and I think that's probably going to happen. So I'm really looking at it as if they traded a first and a third. And looking back on it, Wentz was drafted with the second overall pick. It's very rare that you'll get your value back for that, especially when it's only a first and a third. Considering what Stafford went for and now what Wentz is going for, it truly is interesting to see how much they value one quarterback over the other. And I think it's a good trade for the Colts in the very least, because they reunite Frank Reich. They had that offense from 2017, going to be the kind of very similar to Wentz's MVP season. So I think Wentz is an upgrade over Philip Rivers at this point in their career. I know Rivers is retired, but when he played last year, I think Wentz was still an upgrade over that. We'll see if he fixes his issues in terms of interceptions and turnovers. But I think this is going to be a good start for the Colts. And going to the Eagles, this pretty much puts all the pressure on Jalen Hurts now to succeed Wentz. I know they're going to try to surround him with talent, but at the same time, I don't know Jalen Hurts can be a franchise quarterback. I'm kind of optimistic, though, considering he's put up a lot of yardage in the final 4 games of the season that he started. He's made a lot of good plays, some not so good plays, but a lot of good plays overall. So I think this one might be Whew, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so tired. If you look at the top right, it's 11:42 p.m. I don't know why I record these so late. But Eagles, Carson, what was I talking about? Yeah, Eagles. Jalen Hurts, I think they'll surround him with weapons and try to help him succeed. So I'm not too worried about Hurts. I think it will be difficult for him this season, though. But overall, I think it's worth giving Hurts a try, especially since he was your second-round pick. You have to give him a try to see what you have. And this also doesn't help Hurts releasing Deshaun Jackson. Of course, I kind of figure this might be coming because Deshaun Jackson is getting into that older veteran kind of status. He's not really as useful as what he once was. His injuries have really cost him a lot of time. And it definitely makes sense. And especially considering that the salary cap this year, we're going to see it up a little bit later, but it was set at $182.5 million in cap space, which they actually lowered the cap for the first time in a few years. So you're definitely going to see a lot of veterans get cut that you didn't really think would get cut, honestly. Broncos releasing Jarrell Casey, makes sense. Russell Wilson, this trade for the Seattle Seahawks. Apparently, he would consider the Dallas Cowboys, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Bears. The Dallas Cowboys have their quarterback. The Saints really don't know what they're doing, but they really can't afford him. The Raiders, I have no idea what the Raiders want, to be honest, because I don't know what their commitment is to Derek Carr. But I know Chicago is desperately trying to get Russell Wilson, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think Russell Wilson stays in Seattle. I know he's had a lot of complaints, and some of them are warranted, but some of them not. But I think Russell Wilson stays in Seattle. He really has done a great job there. Seattle is a good city for him. Chicago, I know they're going to be desperate, but I really don't think Seattle wants to trade Russell Wilson. They know his value to the team. Because without Russell Wilson, Seattle would not be a great team. They wouldn't. I mean, I know they got a lot of good players, but without Russell Wilson, none of it works. Orlando Brown, this would be big. If Orlando Brown does have trade possibilities, they would be big because the Ravens kind of need Orlando Brown to help that number one. I think they had the number one overall rushing attack last year, and their offensive line was a big part of it, especially their tackles, Orlando Brown and Ronnie Stanley. So if Orlando Brown does leave, that'd be huge about that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Titans release Adam Humphries, it's not a big deal. This Deshaun Watson and trades, I mean, my God, I really have no idea where Deshaun Watson might end up at this point. As of right now, it looks like Deshaun Watson is going to stay with the Texans, not because he wants to, but because the Texans really have no interest in trading him. I don't know. I think it's a bad move for the Texans because stars generally get what they always want. You almost never see a star, especially a quarterback, that doesn't get out when he wants to get out. I know it happens in the NBA all the time, but if you're a quarterback wanting to get out, especially as young as Deshaun Watson is, you can get a big haul for him. I think the Texans have to trade him. I don't think they can't not, especially if Deshaun Watson would be willing to sit out the season if it means he doesn't get to play. But that's a whole thing. J.J. Watt signing a 2-year deal with Arizona. I think this is definitely about money. Because when J.J. Watt first went to the market for teams that might be able to sign him, Arizona was not on his list, on his 14 list. I think it was Buffalo, Green Bay, and maybe Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, maybe other teams. I'm not sure, but he said it was about Kyler Murray, which I mean, yeah, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. At the same time, not. You're getting 2 years, $31 million and $23 million guaranteed. I think it's definitely about the money for JJ because at this point in his career, sorry again, guys. At this point in his career, I wouldn't be willing to pay him $15 million a year. I just don't think his production is that elite anymore, considering he kind of gets injured a lot. And it was weird for Arizona because Arizona has a lot of pass rushers. If anything, I would have wanted to see Arizona get some help for the secondary because I think that's where their biggest problems lie. But they went to get J.J. Watt, and this shows how determined Arizona is to win their division at this point. They can't be mediocre or average anymore. They got to go above and beyond. So I like the aggressiveness by Arizona, but at the same time, paying that much for J.J. Watt at this point, it may be a little bit overpaid, but if he can have that elite production that he usually does, I think there's no problem with it. I'm glad J.J. Watt got his money. I'm glad Arizona got a dominant pass rusher to go with Chandler Jones. And now we move on to my Dolphins again and releasing Kyle Van Noy. This was kind of upsetting, but I kind of get it. I think the move here was that Flores saw that our linebackers really had not good production last year. They really didn't. We didn't have speed. We didn't have anything that really stood out, honestly. And I think we had to make room in the cap. I think that's why they cut into this contract so early. It is a disappointment getting cut after 1 year, especially in a 4-year deal. I really don't like having that much dead cap space, but I get Van Noy really didn't have the production that we wanted, and I'm fine if they want to cut it if they believe that they can get better. I really do. Overall, I didn't like the move, but I don't hate the move. Kyle Van Noy was a good captain. They need to find another captain for this defense, and they really need to find linebackers for sure in this free agency, because linebacker is a big hole on our team right now. Vikings released Kyle Rudolph. This was after Minnesota couldn't restructure his contract. Kyle Rudolph is still a pretty good tight end in my opinion. I wouldn't say top 10, but I definitely think he's either a good backup or a reliable starting tight end. So I know he'll go somewhere else after the 10 season in Minnesota. I don't think he'll sign for that much though, because I really don't see him being worth too much. Certainly not over 10 mil a year, maybe 6 or 7, but nothing more than that, I don't think. But Kyle Rudolph after 10 years, it is what it is. Let's see what else. Wide receiver, Giants releasing Golden Tate. A lot of veterans are getting cut. That's just how it is this year with the cap going down. A lot of veterans are going to have to get cut from teams, and that's in the case of Golden Tate. So he's going to become a free agent wide receiver. A lot of teams are probably going to be in demand for him. He's still a good wide receiver. Honestly, he really is. So I think a lot of teams will have a demand for him. Obviously not as a 1 or 2 receiver, but maybe a 3 or 4 for sure. A lot of teams will want him. I know we're talking about a punter, but Thomas Morstead has been one of the best punters in the league for sure. So after 12 seasons, seeing him go from the Saints, it's kind of sad in his own way. I mean, he didn't really get a goodbye, but Saints need a punter. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal, but I like Thomas Morstead. I don't know why, but I just like him. Washington releasing quarterback Alex Smith. That was definitely a big one after winning the Comeback Player of the Year award. Ron Rivera said in a statement that he would release him. It was partly because he was worried, what if he got injured again? I don't know if that was his conscience or that was just him as a coach thinking we can't handle this. But Washington needs a quarterback now. And honestly, they won the division last year. It's not crazy that they can win it again, but they need to get a quarterback, especially after also getting rid of Dwayne Haskins in the past year. I don't know if they'll do it I don't think they'll do it through the draft, quite honestly. I think they're going to look in free agency to maybe get a veteran, maybe a player like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Who knows? But Washington definitely needs a quarterback, and I think they're still in the top. I think they're still in the top 2 with the Dallas Cowboys for winning the NFC East at this point. Especially after, well, I guess we'll get to it in a bit. But Washington still has a very capable team to win the NFC, not a playoff game, but the NFC East. So I think as long as they get a quarterback, they might go after a trade for like Sam Darnold or something like that, to be quite honest. Washington has a lot of options, and we'll see what happens there. Jason Kelce signs with the Eagles again. That's good. He's been a great center. Broncos placed franchise tag on Justin Simmons. This one annoyed me a bit because I really wanted the Dolphins to go after Justin Simmons. He's one of the best safeties in the league, in my opinion. Probably, maybe a top 5 safety. I'm not sure. But he's a really, really good safety, very young. It would have been great if he went to the market. So that way, maybe we could have a chance. But this is the second year in a row that the Broncos placed a franchise tag on Justin Simmons. We know that they don't want to get rid of him, so it's a good move for the Broncos, I think, for sure. Washington placed his franchise tag on Brandon Scherf, of course, for a second consecutive year as well. He'll earn $18 million. It's really good for him. He's one of the better right guards in the league for sure. I know about him only because of Madden, unfortunately. Another Dolphins thing that I'm really excited about: Titans shipping Isaiah Wilson to the Dolphins. This was definitely a low risk, high reward kind of move. Tennessee I'm not going to go into the whole drama, but them and Isaiah Wilson, their 2020 first round pick, had a lot of off the field issues, and the Titans really couldn't take it anymore. They had to ship him out of town. They knew they would. And the Dolphins get him very cheap for just a 7th round swap of picks. So that's really going to be helpful for if this move works out. If it doesn't, it costs us nothing. So getting Isaiah Wilson for the offensive line is going to be a big move. I don't know his talent. I haven't seen him play because he's only played, I think, 4 snaps in the NFL so far due to issues. So getting Isaiah Wilson on something cheap like that, I think, is a great move. Whether he works or not, we'll see. But I think it's at least a good move. The Jets getting Marcus May, receiving the franchise tag. Marcus May is one of the only bright spots for this Jets team, quite frankly. And the safety gets an early birthday present. That's funny. As told by Schefter. Getting Marcus May getting the franchise tag definitely helps their secondary. I remember him. He really was one of the only bright spots in that secondary. He didn't really have too much of an on-field presence, but you could tell that he was a leader for that defense, and Marcus May, good for him. Now, one of our other big ones. Dak Prescott gets a 4-year deal worth $160 million. They finally got a contract, and I finally don't have to hear from sports shows anymore. I'm super happy this finally got done. I'm going to be quite honest. I think Dak was overpaid. I would have paid Dak somewhere between $30 and $35 million, to be frank. I wouldn't have paid him $40 million per year. I think that money should be saved specifically for players like Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, young players that really, because they have traits that nobody else has. Dak Prescott, you could find other traits like him. Dak isn't a top 5 quarterback. I would say he's a top 10 quarterback. But yeah, Dak Prescott agreeing to a 4-year, $160 million deal. I mean, really good for him, honestly. And $66 million signing bonus. It's a really, really good deal for him. But again, I think Cowboys might have overpaid and it might cost them. But then again, good job for the Cowboys. I think Dak Prescott, I'm glad he got his money. And yeah, I think this move puts Dallas probably to win the NFC East, knowing that it's done, it's complete. You got nothing else to worry about. So good job for Dak, and I think this makes the Cowboys the number 1, I guess the favorite to win the NFC East this year. So we'll see how that goes. We're almost towards the end. Raiders trade for Trent Brown, finally get him back. He didn't have a good year with the Raiders last year. A lot of money was given to Trent Brown too early, and yeah, I mean, it's not really that big of a move, to be honest. Bucks use franchise tag on Chris Godwin. Again, really annoying. I would have loved to go after Chris Godwin free agency. I don't think he's worth too much money. I wouldn't say not too much, but not top end dollar. The Bucks should have used it on Shaquille Barrett instead of Chris Godwin, in my opinion. They have so many wide receivers. I didn't think they needed a franchise tag Chris Godwin. Honestly, this tells me that Tom Brady probably had a say in this, because Tom Brady really wanted Chris Godwin, and it's good for the Bucks because they need to keep the pieces that won them the Super Bowl. But I would have franchise tagged Shaq Barrett over Chris Godwin. So this move, not the best, but still not a bad one. Having Chris Godwin for next year is definitely going to be a huge help to the Buccaneers. Steelers don't franchise tag Bud Dupree. Again, he really helps with sacks, helping T.J. Watt on that defensive front. If he does hit the market and Bud Dupree goes to another team, this is really going to hurt the Steelers because Bud Dupree's a honestly really essential part to that Steelers defense. And if he doesn't come back, their defense won't be as dominant. Of course, they still will be dominant, but just not as dominant as what they were. Jags franchise tag Cam Robinson, one of the better left tackles in this league. I like the move. They need to protect Trevor Lawrence when they get him. Just a smart move overall. Let's see. The Lions don't use franchise tag on Kenny Golladay. Again, another wide receiver. Chris Godwin won't hit the open market. Kenny Golladay will. It's a good move. It's a good move for the Dolphins. Not a good move for the Lions. The Lions should have done it on Kenny Golladay. I think he's definitely one of the best receivers in this free agency for sure. I really want the Dolphins to go after him. Kenny Golladay is really, really a dominant receiver. I'm surprised the Lions would let him go into free agency. But not using franchise tag, probably the wrong move. They should have done it. And then Bears franchise tag Allen Robinson. This I was annoyed about because Allen Robinson doesn't want to play in Chicago anymore. We know that he's unhappy with the quarterback situation, and now the Bears franchise tag him. He's one of the he's probably the best wide receiver in this free agency, and he got franchise tagged. It's unfortunate. It's a good move for the Bears because the Bears need their wide receiver that wide receiver. Otherwise, I mean, the Bears need Allen Robinson. Otherwise, they would have no offense whatsoever. So it's a good move. It's a good move by the Bears. Again, I'm just disappointed as a Dolphins fan that he won't hit the open market and we can't offer him anything. Other big news. There's really not that big of news left. Packers don't franchise tag Aaron Jones. It's a big move. He's probably the best running back in free agency. Honestly, and I skipped over this, with Chris Carson. Probably the two best running backs in free agency, I would say. I would offer Aaron Jones money. I wouldn't offer him a lot. I would offer him somewhere between 8 to 10 million. I wouldn't offer him more than 10. I think a lot of what helps him is that the Packers have a really good offensive line. But Aaron Jones hitting free agency is going to be big, as well as Chris Carson. It's interesting to see how those play out. I think the Packers should have used it on Aaron Jones, quite frankly. And another move I'm disappointed about, Buccaneers bringing back Lavonte David. I would have loved to have Lavonte David for the Dolphins. He's the leader. He's one of the best linebackers in the game. And 2 years for $25 million, $12.5 million per year. I think it's a great deal. Lavonte David definitely is one of the best linebackers in the league. And he's definitely worth it, in my opinion. There's no doubt that, there's just no doubt in my mind that Lavonte David is worth the money. It's a great move by Tampa. They need their linebackers. Their linebackers are one of the biggest threats on their team, with Devin White. So having them back next year definitely keeps them really Super Bowl level. So good job by Tampa. Definitely the right move for them. Titans releasing Malcolm Butler. Again, another veteran that kind of just has to go. They got to clear cap space. Here's where the cap was set. Down 8%, down to $182.5 million. It's a big move, honestly, to have the cap go down. Of course, COVID had a big impact on that. And if it does, teams just have a lot less money to spend, and they got to get rid of veterans. It just is what it is. The Saints released Emmanuel Sanders. Again, Emmanuel Sanders, one of the better receivers in the league, in my opinion. Definitely not a star, but not a scrub either. I think Emmanuel Sanders is still a good wide receiver, and teams are going to want him. It's just going to have to be on a cheap contract at this point. Another big move. I'd clear all this. Kevin Zeitler, Giants releasing. Again, they got to clear cap space, a veteran guard. It's a good guard, too. One of the best linemen on that team for sure. But you just got to cut him. Veterans are just getting cut left and right. It just is what it is this year. Again, Vikings releasing Riley Reid for $11.75 million. Again, just a lot of veterans getting released. Again, Janoris Jenkins, he's a big one. And Kansas City, also a big one. Releasing Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. Those are some of the best offensive tackles in the league. And they're getting rid of them like that. Eric Fisher was their number one pick about 8 years ago or something like that. And Mitchell Schwartz was, again, with their team for a while. And those two tackles helped Kansas City be what Kansas City are. So having that move, it kind of hurts the dynasty, honestly. It really does. They may just be offensive tackles, but offensive tackles are important, especially when you're protecting Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City's going to have to address their offensive tackle issue over this free agency. Because that move itself is huge in terms of their success for the future. It really, really is. Texans reached a 1-year deal with Mark Ingram. He's not what he used to be. Worth up to $3 million. That's about as good as Mark Ingram will get. He's just not used running back anymore. He's just a veteran. He's getting older. He got beat out by rookie J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards in Baltimore. So, it's just a good deal. It's just a small one. Bills extending Matt Milano, one of their better linebackers, definitely worth the extension in my opinion. He really helped that defense shape up in the second part of the season last year. At 4 years, $44 million, I think it's definitely worth it for a player of his caliber. Falcons re-signed Young Hoku after Pro Bowl season. It makes sense. You gotta have a good kicker. You have to. As much as special teams get overlooked, it really is a big part of the game. And then the final thing I want to talk about, Cam Newton returning to Patriots on a 1-year deal. It's up to $14 million. I wouldn't pay that much if I were the Patriots. If I was the Patriots, I would have offered Cam somewhere around $9-10 million. He didn't have a great season, but then again, he didn't have a lot to work with. So Cam Newton still has a lot to prove out there, and Bill Belichick trusts him. I can't argue with what Bill Belichick does. I mean, he really is a goat at coaching. But Cam Newton getting this 1-year deal, going back to the Patriots for another year, it'll be interesting to see. He might do better the second year. The contract's a bit much, in my opinion. I think it had to get lowered. It had to be less money. But, if the Patriots are comfortable with it, then that's the Patriots. And then none of these really do much. 49ers keeping Emmanuel Mosley is kind of a big deal. They're going to have problems with cornerbacks if Richard Sherman and Jason Verrett, I think, leave. Or maybe Casey Verrett, I'm not sure. And the Chargers releasing Trey Turner after a 1-year trade. I mean, again, more veterans just getting released. It's just kind of what it is right now with the cap. So, but that's about it. That's free agency so far. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I promise I'll be getting these Nuzlocke episodes out to you soon, as well as a in-depth kind of free agency reaction video. I'm super excited to make that, honestly. I really, really am. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, of course, hit the like button. Check out my other videos. I'm super excited to have you. And yeah, thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.